Welcome to week 6 DFS and Dynasty, our Sunday morning live update. We are here to make sure all of your fantasy questions are answered. And if you got anything, just type it in on the comment section there and we will get to it. But we're going to be breaking out a lot of stuff. And with me, as always, are the two sexiest men in fantasy. Let's go with Austin. How are we doing this Sunday morning, sir?
What's up, man? Big win by Michigan. Can't make Steven happy, but what the fuck, man?
So Steven's on here too. What's up, Steve?
What's going on, man? What is going on?
So I asked Steve, I was like, hey, who's your college team? Because he's not the
Michigan had a huge.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, Michigan. But, I was like, dude, you had a huge win. But anyway, shout out to the Wolverines and hook 'em horns, man. Let's keep that train riding. But this is an NFL show, and we're going to be on here for a while, just answering all your questions, going through weather, injury updates, value plays, who you need to watch out for, and who you need to stay away from. So, as always, feel free to send your questions and head over to eatsleepfantasy.com. We have our rankings published live. They are on there. They are up to date, and you can kind of see what we're thinking for this week. And let's get through it, man. Let's start right off with the weather. Austin, head over to you. Tell us about what games we need to be mindful of just with Mother Nature doing what she does.
I think the biggest concern this week, I'll start off with the biggest one and then work my way backwards. But the Rams at Denver, we're looking at freezing temperatures, possible up to 3 inches of snow before the game. If this is the case, I am fading. I had Goff a lot of lineups for 50-50s in cash, but I think I'm going to fade them now. Looking more at Gurley, Lindsey, and Royce in this situation. 49ers, right now, they're going to have to come to Green Bay. They're going to have to deal with the 30s. It's a high 30s. It's not too bad, but from West Coast to East Coast, most teams don't travel well, but this year has been an anomaly. Most of the West Coast players have been playing really well on East Coast time. So then you got Seattle and London. Seahawks are going to fit right in at home because London and Seattle pretty much have the same weather. It's just going to be light rain everywhere, and which I don't know. I think I like Lynch a little bit more in this situation. Baltimore and Ravens, light rain and winds up to 15 miles an hour. The only thing that worries there is the kicking game. That's about it. So,
yeah, and I'll say this, Tucker's one of the best that there is. And with Lynch, man, I love the revenge game. He gets to go flip off Pete Carroll one last time on public. I just think, and I don't know, I think all of London could use some Marshawn Lynch. I just see him fitting in seamlessly with that society.
You don't think he'll behave?
No. I think he'll be happy, crazy Marshawn, right? Not like the pissed off, angry guy, but he's going to be doing his thing, man. He feeds off of the crowd, and I've got a couple buddies that live in London, and we talk football, and they say that the games out there are very different than the games in the States whenever they come here, just because people are just excited to be there, and so the energy is usually pretty high. So it's kind of what it is. But
I was laughing watching NFL Network this morning because Steve Smith was talking about how he's going to play pissed off, and Seattle has actually been smart about not talking at all. Just giving him any more motivation whatsoever than he's already going to have going into that game. And, going back to Austin talking about the weather, man, I won't be surprised if you see a ton of Marshawn Lynch, Chris Carson, and Mike Davis even on the other side, because that offense looks like it might have a new identity. Running the ball a lot in Seattle.
All right, fellas, we got a question already. They're asking, Manuel's asking, are we going to do James White or Lynch for your lineups?
So if I'm doing FanDuel, I am going James White. So, again, the idea is here, this is the Sunday night game. So you're playing across the entire Sunday slate. You're not on the main slate, which is just the games. James White is going to have an insane amount of volume and is completely safe. He has a very, very high floor. I do like Marshawn, but I would prefer James White if you have the money to spend there. What about you, Steve?
I'm playing both Patriots running backs in a lot of tournaments this week, whether it's just the Sunday night game alone or Sunday, Monday, whatever the case may be. But I like Lynch this week as well. But again, especially, FanDuel or DraftKings, more importantly for James White because of the volume he's going to see in the passing game. But I'm playing both Patriots running backs this week over Marshawn Lynch.
Yep. Big time. They're going to be running the ball like crazy. It's just what they're going to do. So let's get into some Vegas lines. And if you're not familiar with what these are the big time heavy bettors that set all of the prop bets and all those things, the over-unders, combined points that these games will put out. And this is one of the most important things when you are building your fantasy lineups, because what you want to do is you want to target these games that are going to be airing it out and just putting up a whole bunch of points. So Vegas lines real quick. Over us coming in, which is great. So let's go through our Vegas lines and then we're going to jump into questions. Austin, what is the highest scoring games that we are targeting this week as far as Vegas lines are concerned?
Man, the biggest one, 60 points, combined score of 60 points, which I think from what I'm hearing is the highest ever. We're looking at Kansas City at New England. Of course, it's a late slate like we talked about. And oh, by the way, I saved like $50 just to play that game alone. And then the next one is Rams at Denver. I think it went down a little bit, but I think the weather is going to play a factor with Vegas. But the two biggest movers this week, let's see. I can't read my own writing, but Colts at Jets. They went up almost 2.5 points, which is probably the biggest mover of the week. I'm not sure why on that one. I started thinking about
Marlon Mack. Duh.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
I didn't think it was Marlon Mack. But I'm still waiting on the news. Is the Colts the linebacker playing? I mean, that's the one I'm worried about right now.
Yeah,
that would change my pick'ems.
His ankle, he's questionable. I don't know if he is. You're talking about Darius Leonard, the amazing rookie who's just been lights out. But yeah, if he's out, I mean, that's huge. That is huge. Yeah. So, Steve, are there any games that you're just like that you have crossed out and said, I'm not playing in this game? I don't care who it is, unless it's an insane value. I'm staying away from these contests.
Oh, man. Not really, man.
He's like Mikey. He takes everything.
I've found value across the board. It just depends on what you want to play. Now, like what I said earlier in the week, though, as far as tournaments go, 50-50s, I've mainly just stayed with the main slate. And then I'm going to play tournaments on, the Sunday night game, the Monday night game, stuff like that. But I mean, across the board, I've found some value. There are players that I've stayed away from, but even in just some what the hell stacks, I'm going to play some guys.
Right. I like it. So some what the hell stacks. Let's get into that. We got a couple questions. Austin, what do we got, bud?
So with Thompson being out, but I haven't heard Thompson's completely out. Have you guys heard that he's completely out?
Not that he is completely out, but that he is likely to not play was what was released. So he's been questionable all week, him and Adrian Peterson. And this is a total mess backfield. Adrian Peterson's going to go. Chris Thompson is probably out. And Adrian Peterson's coming off a separated shoulder, and he doesn't run very friendly. This could be a weird situation where the backups get a lot of work.
Capri see some work because I mean, from what I saw this morning, that Peterson's expected to play. Thompson, and not that this guy's in the backfield, but Thompson and Jamison Crowder are both expected to sit today.
Yeah, for pick'ems, I almost went Washington, and then with all this news of all these injuries, I'm like, I'm going back to where I belong. So
I like Carolina's defense even more this week. I had them because they're a cheaper defense, so I had them in some lineups anyways, and I'm liking it even more so now.
Yeah, and we saw what Washington was last week. They got exposed. They started off with that 3-1 record, but I think this is a team that's on the downtrend. I'm not the biggest fan. Lots of injuries on that team on both sides. And so Capri Bibbs, you look at him, he's 4,500. He's somebody to take a flyer on in a tournament play. I'm probably staying away 50-50. He's not a safe play, but he is worth the upside because, again, at 4,500, what's he got to get? 6-7 fantasy points to return value for you. So don't put him in all your lineups, but if you're only playing one lineup, stay away. Don't be that risky play with one lineup. So that's what I would do.
this is one of those games, like to your question before, of any games to stay away from. It's like I'm not playing anybody from Washington, but Carolina side of the ball. Obviously, I'm in a tournament. I'm going to have some Cam. I'm going to have some Christian McCaffrey. Now more so the Carolina defense. So,
see, I find Cam safe for 50-50s in cash.
Right. Still got to play him in a tournament though. His ceiling is way too high.
That every week. Cam is probably he's the safest quarterback, I would say, which is, for FanDuel or just fantasy in general because of the legs. He's averaging a little over 50 yards rushing each game. And so, that's equivalent to, more than a touchdown pass with the way that scoring works. So you gotta play Cam. And again, Christian McCaffrey, he's been my play almost all season just because, again, that floor is insane. So any other questions we got right now before we jump on?
Yeah, real quick. I think Steven answered it, but is Michelle playable this week? And I'm saying hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
they're expecting him to suit up, and I have him across the board too. I love Sony Michel and James White this week.
That's a great stack.
The only way that you can, or let me say this, Bill Belichick, if he is going to win this game against his terrible Kansas City defense, it is going to be not in having a crazy shootout and throwing the ball 50 times. It's going to be slowly, methodically moving the ball down the field. And if that's the case, it's going to be a heavy dose of Sony Michel and a heavy dose of James White. And
because they're going to want to try and keep that Kansas City offense off the field. Yep. So
another thing is if Michelle was really that hurt, I think they would have signed another running back this week easily.
Yeah, because they don't have much behind them.
No,
they don't have much at all behind them.
Hey, all right, real quick though, two things that just popped up. So Ryan Tannehill's status is, I guess, up in the air for today. Probably not that you would play him or anything like that, and then going back to the Le'Veon Bell saga, he has had zero contact with the Steelers in his expected return coming here in Week 7.
Yeah, he came out and said, the Le'Veon Bell, that he will be reporting during the Week 7 bye. So
that could be anytime.
I'm hoping he shows up. I got him in a couple leagues. So come on. And Ryan Tannehill, holy freaking cow. If there was any reason the Bears defense is number one, and they've already had their bye week, and they're still the number one scoring defense. I love that matchup this week. I
would just go and just put Bears in every single lineup and just play it safe.
Bears and the Texans, man. Those are the two.
Those are the two that I've paid up for. Yeah.
Yep. Those are just not only returning your value, but you're talking about some possible game winners there. So this might be one of those weeks that's worth it to spend a little bit more on defense. Now, what about Courtland Sutton? We got a question on Sutton.
He's asking, basically, are we concerned about the weather, and are we going to fade Courtland Sutton a little more? I really didn't have him in a lot of lineups. That actually wouldn't be a bad tournament because they'll probably be faded the same way we're thinking mindset. And then a real quick question, once you're done with the Sutton stuff, John, how many Skittles can you fit in your mouth?
Skittles,
that was a question.
That's good. Yeah.
I love it.
If they're sour Skittles, then I could probably do about 28. But again, man, I'm not a Skittle guy. I prefer larger, rounder objects in my mouth usually. So
Marshawn would be so upset, and your second statement is zero surprise to me.
I'm a pleaser, Steven. You know this. But yeah, so Sutton, I don't mind having Sutton in lineups just because he is getting the snaps. Again, he's getting about a 90% snap share, and for some reason Case Keenum's just terrible. This is what it is, but he is a guy that could, with his price, if he gets 2 catches, he's getting in the end zone. He is just a big play waiting to happen. I'm probably a little biased because I've been huge on Courtland Sutton for years now, but he's only 4,800, and the Rams defense is good, but he's going to be having a favorable matchup because, again, the top 2 wide receiver threats are Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. So Courtland Sutton is going to be making somebody some money at some point this season. I'm putting him in a tournament lineup every single week until he hits big. And he returned value last week, and he only had 2 catches.
Yeah, I've been putting him in some tournament lineups too, and I'm even going to do so this week, even if the weather is bad, because dude, they look for him in the red zone. You
All
know, I
right.
mean, if they're 15 yards and in, and they're taking shots at the end zone, he's been involved. So I mean, even if it's just a couple red zone targets and he cashes in on one of them at 4,800, you got what you needed out of him, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's go through some news and injuries, and let's start off with my boy Steve. Your boy Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks both went down with concussions last week. Cooper Kupp made us some money before he went out. He has been just so reliable this year. What are your thoughts with this receiving, for the receiving core for the Rams? Who should we target and who do we need to stay away?
Me, I'm still a believer in Kupp. I know he has Harris in the slot as a matchup this week in Denver, but I mean Denver all around has been getting beat up, and actually Vance Joseph is on the hot seat, but that's kind of irrelevant to this. But I mean, I'm playing all the guys. If I'm fading anybody, it's going to be Robert Woods. I still don't like Robert Woods for his price. I think he should be the lesser valued, and if he was, I would play him. But the fact that you're still getting Cooper Kupp for less than $7,000 and he's getting a ton of targets and he's getting looks in the red zone, and he's kind of in a way he's been a mismatch. So I still like him for his price. And Brandon Cooks, he's reasonably cheap for the kind of production you're getting out of him because he's getting the catches, the yards. I mean, he only has one touchdown, but I could see him going deep at least once in this game.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like FanDuel went out and set their pricing expecting Brandon Cooks and Kupp to be out. And so they bumped Robert Woods up to 7,300. But then, of course, it seems like they're both going to play. So I'm staying away from Robert Woods this week just because of the price. Not that I don't think that he's going to have a good game. I just don't think the value is there. So, Steve, with injuries to all of the Browns wide receivers, and they added Stonehands Brashad Perriman. How does this impact Callaway? I love Callaway. What about you?
I don't think it's going to impact him. I think Perriman's just kind of a depth signing because of what they have. But, Callaway's, he's a deep threat, and he's going to be utilized in that aspect. He's going to see his targets. Not that he's getting a ton of volume, but I don't think it's going to impact him at all. I think you're going to see Njoku get an uptick in targets as you did last week. I think he's going to see similar volume, maybe a little bit less. But we'll see what happens. Austin, what do you think?
I disagree. I am not touching that kid. He has dropped as many passes as Brashad Perriman his whole career. So I was, I really thought he was getting the targets, getting the volume. I figured with the gunslinger mentality out there, he'd be the guy. But I think I'm not touching that kid, and it kills freaking Higgins too, which I think I'm going to end up dropping him in some dynasty leagues. But yeah, I'm just.
Well, Higgins is hurt right now.
Yeah, Higgins is out this week.
No, he's out. He is out. But I mean, it just adds another come on, really? Just stick with what you got.
Yeah. So
that's why I think it's a depth signing more than anything.
Yeah, they don't have the bodies. They've gotten rid of a lot of talent at that wide receiver position. Now, Martavis Bryant has the flu. He's questionable. So what does this do, Austin, for this Raiders receiving core? Because, again, there's a couple guys I like here. I love me some Jordy. What do you think?
I wasn't going to mess with this anyway. I was just, with this game being in London, and then what I'm hearing that they just left like 2 or 3 days ago to fly out to London, I would just plan on sticking with the running game, and that was about it. So
okay, yeah, I will say this: the Raiders are throwing the ball like. No, that defense is terrible. I could see something happening there. I got Jordy in a couple lineups myself. Now let's head over to another offense that throws the ball more than they should. The Packers, Randall Cobb hamstring and Geronimo Allison hamstring. Game time decisions for Monday Night Football. So, Austin, what is it? Who are we looking for? Because it's probably a different guy for Cobb and a different guy for Allison, correct?
I think we're going back to MVS. What do you guys think?
I think.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, if Cobb's out, I think Scantling is going to be the play. If Allison's out, then I think it's going to be ESB, Equanimeous St. Brown. But yeah, I like both those guys depending on who is out. The coaching staff came out and said both of these guys are going to be getting a lot more volume this week. So the sky's the limit. But again, this is the Monday night game. So you are making sure you're entering in the right slate. If you're playing the Sunday to Monday slate, then you can get some of these value plays in there. If not, you're kind of missing out.
Yeah, see, I haven't touched this slate at all. I want to wait till Monday night, jump in some qualifiers because I want to see how these injuries pan out. You look at these two teams; they have injuries across the board and the wide receiver group. So I want to see who's playing before I make some lineups, and I'll jump into some qualifiers on Monday.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right, let's go to the insane Isaiah Crowell, 200+ yards rushing last week on my bench in a lot of dynasty leagues. He's going to play. He's expected to play. He has an ankle issue. But are either of you guys putting Crowell? He's 6,700 on FanDuel. Are you putting him in lineups or Bilal Powell? Austin, we'll go to you.
I put him in a single lineup only because he had such a good game last week, and I don't know. It almost feels like when the guys have big games like that, I always like to at least play him in a lineup or two. When even especially the guys you're going like, what the hell? Where did he come from? Because usually they can go back to back. I do like the other kid better. I was really kind of hoping that Crowell was going to be out. I don't wish injuries on anyone, but man, if Crowell would have been out, man, this would have been a great play. And you could probably had a lot of running back value for this week.
Yeah, Bilal Powell, he is only 5,800. He's pretty cheap, and they're at home against Indianapolis. And again, if Darius Leonard, that freaking all-pro rookie linebacker, is out, that makes it an even better play. I think the Jets have found a way to be competitive and win some games, and that's just run it like crazy, and then some play action deep passes. So it's an interest. This is going to be a fun game. I'm pretty excited. I think we're going to figure out which team is for real, whether it's the Colts or the Jets. Both have been a middling team, but both are playing some better football. So from an NFL perspective, I'm pretty pumped about this.
This could be a sneaky high scoring game, to be honest.
Yeah, neither one play great defense, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good one. Deshaun Watson, he is expected to play his chest. He took so many big hits last week. So, Steve, this is an interesting game because all three stud wide receivers, Kiki Coody, Will Fuller, they're all questionable. Yeah, Hopkins, they're all questionable. So, Steve, what are you doing here? Who are we fading? Who do we like?
Honestly, the only thing I'm fading is that backfield in Houston. I'm still going to play Watson. I'm still going to play those three wide receivers spread out. I still like Hopkins and Coody a little bit more than Fuller. Fuller's that deep ball guy. And I think the way that Coody has come in the last couple of weeks, that might take some targets away from Fuller underneath. But I'm still going to play these guys. I have Watson in tournament play, Hopkins in tournament play, even in cash. I mean, yeah, they're hurt, but everybody at this point in the NFL is hurt. Everybody's going to have a questionable tag across the board for the most part. Now that the NFL has been very rude to us and taken away the probable tag and changed injury names to pelvic injuries and things like that. So I'm still playing these guys. Yeah, right. So I'm still playing these guys. I don't care what's going on. They have a good matchup with Buffalo and they're at home. I'm definitely playing.
Yeah. What about you, Austin?
I faded most of these guys in cash games. Like I said, with those tags and me being as conservative as I'll get out, I just like it. I don't feel good about it at all. I don't have the warm fuzzy. I don't have nothing with it when it comes to this game. I will give it a shot in tournament plays, which I'm like, man, why am I playing so many goddamn tournaments? Thank God for 25-cent ones. But it's a great situation, like Steven said, with the matchup and stuff like that. But it's just, man, there's too many what ifs out there. And I actually do like Blue and what's his name for freaking a lineup or two just to see what happens.
You're my boy, Blue.
Yeah, because they're getting 15 points a game, and that's a pretty good ceiling. So,
you know what, Austin? If Blue's scores a touchdown today, I fully expect to see a GIF on Twitter of Blue. You're my boy, Blue.
You're
You're my boy, Blue. Oh,
I
I'm
like
not
it.
saying he's a guy, dude. Gurley's the boy. What are you talking about, man? He's the safest guy you can think of this week, dude. Even Gordon isn't that safe this week, which scares me.
I don't know.
I think Gordon's safe as anything. I think he is matchup proof, man. At Cleveland, they've been a pretty stout defense, but he gets the ball on the perimeter in the passing game a ridiculous amount. He is the highest target share of his entire career. Man, I don't know. I don't know.
The one thing I want to watch with that game, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Cleveland actually leads the NFL right now with 15 takeaways.
Interesting. Do you know? I know who's in dead last. The 49ers. I love you guys. All right. Moving on. Gronk is expected to play. We talked a little bit about this game earlier, so let's move on to, man, if you are playing the main slate, this is so gross. This is, if you want to understand what 2018 is all about, Eric Ebron is the highest priced tight end in the main slate. So if you take out, Gronk and Kelsey, and of course, Ertz already played, Ebron, he's the highest priced tight end. Are you guys putting him in any lineups? We'll go with you first, Austin.
Yeah, I'm playing him. I mean, like I said, he's what they consider the safest tight end for the week. So I'm definitely leaning towards Eric Ebron. I got him in a couple lineups. He's not my focus, only because I think tight end is where you gain value. You're more willing to take chance at tight end because it's such a volatile position. So, but Eric, you gotta get us some exposure, Eric Ebron. I mean, look at what he did last week. You gotta try. You gotta.
Yeah. I wish there was like a prop bet on how many passes he'll drop each week. I would play that. I would bet the over. Because this guy he's such a trash football player, but he doesn't block. He drops passes. He runs the wrong routes, but he's an athlete. So it's what it is. I'm not playing Eric Ebron. What about you, Steve? Do you have him in anything?
I have him in like one or two tournaments. Nothing crazy, just because the upside of the volume, man. Him, Chester Rogers, Ryan Grant, Naheem Hines. I just not in a lot, but I have some exposure to those guys just because of the possibility that game is very sneaky, high scoring wise.
All right. I like it. Now, we talked a little bit about Chris Thompson earlier with the question, but man, this Redskins team, the whole team is going to be out. You've got it's just a mess. Paul Richardson's questionable. Crowder's probably going to be out. Chris Thompson's going to be out. Somebody has to get targets in this lineup. I think it's going to be both tight ends. Jordan Reed sitting at 6,200. And then if we go all the way down to Vernon Davis, who is a very, very sneaky play, what do you guys think? I mean, Vernon Davis is 4,500 on FanDuel, and I think he's going to be out there in 3 wide receiver sets. Am I crazy on this, Austin?
No, I like that aspect as well. I'm looking at Vernon Davis for just a lineup, just for, like you said, exposure. The bankroll's nice enough where I can lean into it. And then there's a question about Maurice Davis. Would any of you all touch him this week?
I understand where that's coming from, but I'm staying away. I'm staying away.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you feel like taking a flyer on him in one tournament, I mean, I guess he will get some targets. At least a couple. He might get one in the red zone. It's hard to say. But my biggest concern with this whole scenario is if Washington gets behind, they clearly cannot play from behind. So you could have all these guys in your lineups and Alex Smith will be slinging the ball, but against a very bad Saints defense, you saw what Alex Smith did playing from behind. So I don't know. I mean, if you do want some exposure just because of the possibilities, fine, great. But I would not go crazy in putting these guys in your lineups.
And you said Maurice Harris, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maurice Davis.
Yeah, I don't think there's a Maurice Davis. There's
Harris. That's what I meant. Harris. Yeah. Sorry.
Harris.
And so I'll say this, if these guys are out, he will be starting. which is you got to take.
He did last week.
Yeah, the targets were there, but what was the year where Alex Smith went the entire year without throwing a touchdown to a wide receiver?
And they all went to Vernon Davis.
Yeah,
yeah.
Vernon Davis was on my fantasy team that year, and that panned out well for me.
There you go. And so it's the same Vernon Davis. It's the same Alex Smith, just a different uniform. They're kind of traveling together their whole career. So it's what it is. So do we have a couple questions? Let's pause for a second. The questions are building up, which we appreciate. Thank you guys. Just be patient with us. Austin, what do we got, man?
So I don't know who Skin Tone Chicken Bone is, but I do like the name.
That's awesome. I love it.
Well, he's asking, can he get his Everybody Loves Raymond DVDs back from 2015? I don't know which one of you two have them. Oh, it's John. John still has those. Do you still have his DVDs, dude?
I do still have the DVDs. It's a long story, and some things are worth breaking relationships over. And so, if you get into that third season of Everybody Loves Raymond, it's hard to quit. So sorry, you're not getting your DVDs back. They're staying with me.
And then Rick's asking, he's got a couple questions about who we'd have exposure to. Are any of you guys touching Ito this week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I like him in tournament play.
Yeah, you got to look at that over-under, and, they play terrible defense, Tampa Bay does. Their front seven is good, but we know that, Matt Ryan struggles in the red zone, so there's got to be at least once 60-yard bomb to who's the great Julio Jones, who gets tackled on the one because he's allergic to touchdowns, and then they're going to give it to Ito for a 1-yard thing. So Ito will return value this week. I believe that with Freeman out.
Okay.
Judge Ito.
Yeah, and then John Brown. I mean, I have him definitely in a couple lineups. I mean, he's getting so much volume, and with that matchup, I'm playing him.
Yeah, the ball's got to go to somebody. Flacco's got to throw it to somebody. And again, I think Austin, you're the one that came up with the awesome Flacco stack, right?
No, that was Steven.
Is that Steve? Steve, tell us about your. Let's jump out of order here. Walk us through. This is hilarious and smart. Walk us through your crazy wacko Flacco stack.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. I mean you're wacko if you're stacking Flacco, right? So, I had this is one of my tournament plays. I'm going Flacco at $7,000 with Alex Collins. I don't know, just something about Alex Collins this week just is piquing my interest. He's at 6,200. Throw Todd Gurley in there because he's been the man and he's very safe. You can get some big value out of him, and I think he has a good matchup to return for you. And then John Brown at 6,300. He's been the guy for Flacco to throw to. He's been the most consistent target in that offense. And then I kind of hemmed and hawed just because it seems like every other week Amari Cooper has been booming and, go to a boom and bust. So I've either gone Amari Cooper or Tyler Boyd in this situation because they're very close in cost. But, at 6,300, I have Tyler Boyd in there right now. And then I went Taylor Gabriel at 5,600 just because that's
Shout out to Armando.
That's a gadget offense there in Chicago with that defense. If Tannehill's going to be out, that just makes Chicago's defense even more interesting. And, if that offense stays short, Taylor Gabriel has seen, enough volume. He's been seeing 5, 6, 7 targets a week. So, they get in the red zone. He can get a couple, at least a 2-yard touchdown like he did last week. So I don't know. I just like the upside with him there and just to stay on the cheaper side. And then David Njoku with the way that offense has been evolving. I think Baker Mayfield likes him. He saw 11 targets last week, and I kind of expect that to stay the same way and those two to continue to grow. And then Melvin Gordon in that same game, he's a safe play like we just talked about a few minutes ago. He's at 8,800, and then Houston's defense at 4,700. They have a great matchup. They're at home against Buffalo. I don't know. It's something I wanted to take a shot at. There's plenty of opportunity there. I know that Flacco's facing a defense that's, in the top 5 against the pass, but hey, why not?
And that's the thing. What's going on here is a contrarian play where you go against kind of chalk, as Austin calls it, or a lot of people call it, and you're
Unicorns.
trying to predict something that's, you know, not a lot of people are betting on. So if you play this in a huge tournament with a lot of entries, this is a way that you can get paid. You know, we made a joke about stacking Buffalo 3 weeks ago, and if we would have did it, you would have made a lot of money. So if you play a lot of different lineups, it's always good to put one or two kind of interesting, kind of weird lineups like this together just in case. So Austin, what else you got, bud?
So I'm gonna take these two, and then I got one question I'm gonna definitely put to Steven because I can't touch these two. But I got a question asking about Eckler. I have a stack. I definitely have a stack with Gordon and Eckler. I can't stay away from this group. I mean, there's so much volume there, and it just seems like they just target those two every single week. And then Lindsey, I don't have any exposure to Lindsey this week. I mean, I probably should with the weather, and I'm more of a Royce Freeman individual, but
I am as well. And they came out this week saying we need to get the ball to Freeman more often. You know, they didn't say anything bad about Lindsey, but they just said we need to get Freeman the ball more. So
they said that last week too, and they still went to Lindsey more. And I want to see that before I could buy into it. And Lindsey's been the most consistent.
True. Yeah.
You know, his floor has been consistent with the upside that he has to break away. So until I see something change, you know, Lindsey's been between those two. He's been my favorite on the cheaper play, and I do have some exposure to him this week. I keep my exposure to him mainly in DraftKings because of that PPR value.
Gotcha.
But you look at this week you have Royce Freeman, Lindsey, Alex Collins, Chris Carson, Isaiah Crowell. Those guys are anywhere from like 6,000 to 6,700 in FanDuel, and there's a ton of upside there. And I like a lot of those guys. I had Crowell in a lot of lineups, but I don't know. He was limited all week with the ankle. He was going to be a game time decision. Now he's expected to play. Not too comfortable with that, so I switched him out with some of those names that I had mentioned there. But talking about Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, interesting point. On NFL Network this morning, they were saying that those two right now are on pace to do something very similar to what you saw with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara last year, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, they've both been hitting nonstop. I mean, every single week they've returned value. They haven't put up a dud game yet. So
yeah.
I'm not sure if we lost John.
Yeah, I don't know because it froze for me too.
So if we'd lost John, then hey man, so this is why I'm putting it to you because of course we're not live anymore, but you can listen
we're
to
still live.
No, we're dead. I got the YouTube channel up, but Carson and Davis, like I said, I'm punting this one to you, man, because I really did try to put them in a couple lineups, and every time I saw their names and I saw Seattle, I was just like, no, I can't do it. I actually have Baldwin in a lineup, which is surprising.
I don't know. I need to see more from Baldwin, but I like Carson and Davis. If it's going to be raining over there, I think that game's going to be on the ground more than anything. I really like them both. I mean, what Davis saw 12 carries last week. Carson saw 19 carries. Davis had the lesser of the yards and had the touchdown, but Carson ran for over 100 yards. I don't know. I'm still going to play those guys. I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to them. Well, Mike Davis, anyways. I mean, I have enough exposure with Carson, and there is a league that I have that I'm starting both of them this week just because I expect a lot of carries over there in London.
Oh, I like it. So I know we got some more questions. We'll pick back up with some more questions here in a second, but I want to go over one of my favorite things that we do is our emergency value plays. Basically, these are the guys, if something crazy happens and somebody gets pulled last minute and you have no time, but you got to fix your lineups quick. These are the people that we would target for each position. So let's head over to Steve. He put this list together and it's awesome. So who are your emergency value plays this week, Steve?
So a quarterback, I like Bortles at 6,900. The biggest reason why, because I have another Jaguar in this in these names too. Sean Lee is not available this week. So, and Sean Lee and that Dallas defense, and then that Dallas defense without Sean Lee is kind of night and day. So I really do like Bortles. I love TJ Yeldon again this week without Sean Lee and that Dallas defense. But then you have Jordan Howard against Miami at 6,200. Talking about again that offense just being a gadget offense. This could be a week for Jordan Howard too. If they're able to just play defense and run the ball, you could see a lot of Howard and Cohen and the wide receivers go away. It's hard to say, but I like him at 6,200. I mean, for the upside that he has at that price, you have to play him. And then Atlanta playing against that terrible Tampa Bay secondary, Mohamed Sanu at 5,800. I mean, he had 6 catches and a touchdown last week, so he's definitely involved with that offense. And I think all those wide receivers are going to see something. So he's definitely worth a play. And then Niles Paul, he's the other guy in Jacksonville that I was talking about. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is on IR, and it's between Niles Paul and Shaughnessy. And Paul saw the targets when ASJ went out last week. So at 4,800, you want to punt on tight end or you need an emergency play, probably not a bad idea. And then, as we talked about a little bit earlier, with Washington, the amount of injuries that they have, what we saw from them last week, really love Carolina's defense. I mean, they're only $3,900 right now on FanDuel, and that's a defense that has upside anyways. And just with what they have going on in Washington right now, I think that's a bigger value play than anything.
I love it. I love it. Keeping us ready to win. And that's the thing. If you guys are struggling through DFS, you need to understand, we have been very, very successful because we put in the time. And if you don't know how to build these lineups, we do it for you. So head over to eatsleepfantasy.com. It's $5 a week. I guarantee you're going to make that money. I can't guarantee it, but who knows what happens. We've posted over 80% of our 50-50 lineups have been hitting. We have tournament plays up there. But Austin, can you go through some tips just for bankroll and just how to play in general? So when people are putting all their DFS plays in, whether it's FanDuel, DraftKings, wherever, what are some tips that you have for us just to constantly keep in the back of our mind to make more money?
So just for the tip, just to get the tip,
yeah,
just to enjoy the tip, just a little bit of the tip. But my favorite one is when you're spending your bankroll, make sure you have everything covered with your 50-50s. The main reason is tournaments do not hit very often, and when I say not often, like we're talking like 20 or 30% of the time right now is from what I'm noticing. So always make sure I got everything covered with my safe plays, and then that way, even if I miss out, guess what? I get to play again next week. So I didn't really miss out that much. And then stacks. When it comes to tournaments, what we've seen for the $1 million makers is stacks are crushing it, and running backs and the flex are killing it. So that's what when it comes to those big ones. And
just
then
to give everybody an idea with stacks, Thursday night game this week, I won 6 different qualifiers, stacking variations that involved players such as Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, Corey Clement, Saquon Barkley. So those guys right there in different variations in any flex tournaments, those guys won me 6 different qualifiers this week. So stacks make a huge difference.
Yeah, they really do. And I'll say this is a question I got. Are there any sneaky San Francisco Green Bay plays? Again, and this goes towards those single lineups. This is so if you're playing the single lineups where basically you pick 5 players for a single game, and this is what Steve's talking about where he won all those qualifiers. Here's what you have to do. You got to understand. You have to find the guys because the way that the bankroll works or the salary cap, you can't just pick all the good ones. So you have to find those low-key guys that are going to get an increased target share or volume. And San Francisco has a bunch of those because their whole team's hurt. Marquise Goodwin's only 5,500. He's going to be back this week. That's super cheap. And then also Trent Taylor, their slot, wide receiver is probably going to be out, and Richie James, which is a name that I'm going to have in almost all my lineups. He's going to be the starting slot because Dante Pettis is out, Trent Taylor is out, and he was amazing at Kansas State. And if you look in the preseason, he dominated. So he's a guy that's going to get you, 4 or 5 catches with upside because, again, the 49ers, they don't score a lot of points, but they have a ridiculous amount of yards. So just something to keep a mind on. And I think let's go through some
one guy
words.
One guy I want to add to that, John. I'm not sure what his price is right now, but if Breida doesn't play and you have all those wide receivers out, is Juszczyk.
The juice. Juszczyk, super cheap, 5,300, which, man, actually he's a little more than I would have thought, but he's averaging almost 7 fantasy points a game, and he's not getting the ball a lot, but
and he gets targeted.
Yeah, because, again, whenever Morris went down in the fourth quarter last game, Juszczyk was the only running back we had left on that roster.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's go through parting words. We'll start with the big man, Austin.
Hey, I just want to give a shout out to all the listeners and those that are interacting with us. Really appreciate the interaction. It really makes the week go by faster. Really enjoy it. And it, instead of talking shit to these two, it just makes it's some more fulfilling for my life.
Yeah, and I appreciate the Skittles and the DVD questions. Those are strong to quite strong.
Yeah, really, especially because it got you to come out and then talk about how much you love bigger, rounder things in your mouth.
Yeah, it just seems like it was made for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And Steve, any parting words from you, my friend?
Just go to eatsleepfantasy.com. Just go there, subscribe, check out the website, buy some lineups as John talked about earlier, $5 a week, $50 for the year. And then while you're there, man, check out all the articles. JJ, Clayton, Mark, Mike, those guys are putting stuff out every week. It's good content. Go there and read it. You have your streamers, your defensive streamers, you have your waiver wire, so on and so forth. I mean, those guys put out a ton of stuff. I can't even keep track of it half the time. So just go there, check it out. It's good stuff.
I like it. And my parting words are follow us on Twitter. Steve can be followed at SSPAC21, SPAC21. Austin can be followed at AUSTN37. Again, there's no I. Austin37 without the I. And me, JL_Chapman. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. And we will be back with you guys in the middle of the week, breaking down week 7. Now, go make some money.
Let's get that cheese. Let's get that cheese.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Peace.